Okay, here we are with the former Strikeforce Bantamweight champion, the former UFC Bantamweight champion, current one championship VP, a mommy to one, soon to be a mommy to two, Miesha Tate. How are you, Miesha? Good to have you back on MMA Junkie Radio.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure. Good to talk to you guys. I hope you're staying well with the recent COVID-19 breakout over there.
Yeah,
We're
we're surviving.
everywhere.
We're locked up in Mountain's Edge, a part of Las Vegas that I know you're familiar with. And I should clarify, this is actually MMA Junkie, some new projects that we're doing on video where this isn't necessarily the radio show, but goes in our spreading our wings as well, getting into the video game. So thank you very much for being one of our first guests.
Oh yeah, absolutely. This was super easy. Just like click a link and here we are.
Yeah. Shout out to Ken Hathaway for lining that up. All right, so Miesha, you brought it up, and actually that was going to be one of the questions. How are you doing in regards to coronavirus and this pandemic that's turned the world upside down, and you in the latter stages of pregnancy? How are you dealing with this?
Well, look, I'm going stir crazy. I'm not gonna lie. It sucks being so at home so much. Even though there's parts of it I enjoy, it's nice to be able to be with my daughter a little bit more. But it's hard to just be locked up. But I definitely recommend that people take that extra precaution because even if you're young and healthy, you don't want to be responsible for someone else's death. And I mean that is a real reality that people who are not as young and healthy can pass away from this, and people are, and I don't want to be one of those people, and I don't want to catch it either. I mean, even 2 weeks of being in a medical quarantine is going to be a pretty hefty bill, and it's not going to be a pleasant experience. And I can't imagine, I'm in my third trimester, so I already have a good space thief in there, and I already have trouble breathing, so I don't need any more help with that. But in all seriousness, you guys, please, like, don't mess around. It's not and quit hoarding toilet paper. Of all things, like, when you think like the world being in a crisis, that toilet paper would be the thing that everybody stocks up on. It's like, maybe we have our priorities like not quite straight. Maybe that's why this world is getting so crazy at the moment. But here in Singapore, the government is doing a great job. I think in a lot of articles that I've read that, kind of leading the world an example of how to deal with this. So I feel very privileged to be over here in Singapore at the moment, and just doing our best, coming up with crazy ideas to keep Amaya entertained and not try to go crazy ourselves. So I've been doing a lot of baking, and I'm sure I'll have a price to pay a little bit for that when the baby comes, have a little bit extra baby weight to get off. But hey, I'm enjoying the pregnancy.
Miesha, has it been difficult at all? I mean, you've traveled the world a lot, but really you've had a lot of places you've called home, one of them being Washington and also Las Vegas. When you keep up with the news, there's a lot of different places you have to follow. And Washington's one of the ones that was hit the hardest in the early parts. Las Vegas, you wouldn't even recognize it right now. You could walk down the middle of the strip and no car would even come close to you. How do you keep up with that sort of news, and then as well what's around you?
Oh, well, my family's all based in Washington State, and a lot of my really good friends are based in Las Vegas. So besides just reading the articles, I'm always reaching out, asking how is it there, what's going on. Yeah, it's disturbing, because a lot of people I love and care about are in Washington State, and a lot of people I love and care about are in Nevada, particularly Las Vegas area. And it's scary, it's worrisome because you just never know. I mean, I think some people don't even know that they necessarily have underlying health conditions. And, it's a coronavirus that takes out a mom of 6. You hear those stories, and it breaks my heart. And I just wish that other people who think that they could be all right if they caught this virus, that they wouldn't die. I mean, that's the wrong frame of mind to only be thinking about yourself. So please look at the big picture, you guys, and listen to your local authorities, and take 2 weeks and stay home, or whatever it is that the government is asking of you to do it. Just do it, because there's a bigger price to pay for some people in your ignorance. So I guess that's really kind of my message and, idea about the whole thing, Washington, Las Vegas, but really the whole world. I mean, the whole world is being impacted by this, and we all kind of have to do our part. And yeah, it sucks, but it could be a lot worse. We definitely could have way worse issues to face. So, staying at home for a couple weeks is not the end of the world, you guys. It's really not that big of a sacrifice to make.
All right, so Miesha, let's talk a little bit about your tenure with One Championship. I believe it's about a year now that you've been with them, if I'm not mistaken. Sometime around last spring, I remember you were packing up the house and heading that way. Tell us about this past year, some of the highlights, and have you had any difficulties throughout this year adjusting and with work itself?
Oh, I mean, well, I'll start with difficulties, sure. I mean, it's not easy to move your family halfway across the world and relocate and start a whole new job. And, I'll admit that I'm swimming in a tank of sharks. That's what I feel like all the time, that the CEO and the leadership team and all the executives that I work with on a regular basis they're so smart, they're so driven, they're so educated. And I feel like, the small fish in the pond. And I'll say that that's not necessarily how I felt when I was competing in mixed martial arts, totally two different ends of the spectrum. But I have learned so much, and I'm rounding out my game, and of life, I feel like sometimes, I'm a bit overwhelmed, but I'm eager to learn. And the family atmosphere that you feel here, feel like you're part of a family, that I'm able to do just that. And I really feel like I'm beginning to flourish as somebody on the executive side. And highlights for me, I love being able to travel, even though right now, obviously, COVID-19 has put a damper on that, to say the least. But, the experiences that you get when you go other places and you see other parts of the world, and you get to see, visiting, other impoverished third world countries, being in Asia, being in Singapore. Singapore is a beautiful country. It's super clean. It's great. It's wonderful. It's nice. But, I do get to travel and experience other parts of the world that really make me appreciate the opportunity that I have here and the opportunity that I've been presented with. And let's even talk about the struggle of women's mixed martial arts. In the Western world over there, like in America, it's not really an issue. People don't really see it that it's an issue because women have broken the ground. When I started back in 2006, there was a lot of headway to still be covered. But in parts of Asia, and I realized, so much more so in other parts of the world, women are still really being held back from this, and even some places perhaps men, but definitely an uphill battle for a lot of females that want to compete in mixed martial arts, and it's just not permitted or allowed or accepted. They're still being ruled in a sense, and it just blows my mind. So those are some of the things that have opened my eyes, and I really appreciate when I can humble myself again and realize like there's still work to be done, and put the nose to the grindstone, and just continue to try to get this message out there that look, the ladies are perfectly capable alongside the men to do this, and hopefully encouraging people not to restrict their daughters any different than they would their sons. So those are some of my great experiences, and I love being able to be a part of change for the better.
That being said, you have a daughter. If she were to ever tug on your pant leg one day and say, when I grow up, I want to be like mommy, would that type of career, would that be something that you would support? Would you want her to do MMA eventually at some point?
I am totally open-minded to whatever she wants to be. I think that children are lights to be lit, and you provide that, and then they have to make their own decisions. So I want to give her, what I want to do is I want to give her opportunity. I want to give her the opportunity to be whatever she wants to be, to realize that she can go after whatever dream she wants to. And if it is mixed martial arts, if it is MMA, if it is fighting, of course I'll support her 100%. I don't know how I could be a fighter myself and say that I wouldn't support my daughter in the same decision. But it wouldn't be the first career choice that I would pick for her, because it's really hard, and it's very hard on your body, and we don't know exactly what the landscape will look like by the time she gets to that age anyways. You know, it may be better and it may not be. So, you know, the world is her oyster, and that's how I want her to look at it.
Let's talk a little bit about just how hard and difficult it is to be a mixed martial artist. But even in these times right now where a lot of the world is in self-quarantine, you've had the chance to be on the executive side and the fighter side. When you talk to fighters, what kind of advice do you give them? How can they stay sharp right now in these times where they really can't be training too much with other people, really can't be leaving the house all that much? What kind of advice do you have for them?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, it's unfortunate, but not. I do understand it, but Evolve Mixed Martial Arts was shut down here, which is the main mixed martial arts gym. All gyms, essentially, particularly mixed martial arts gyms, have been shut down. So on top of being recommended to stay home, it's no longer even possible for athletes to grapple or box or kickbox. And I think that's a pretty common theme across a lot of the states as well. So my advice would be, take the time to mentally train yourself, right? So I'm a big believer in looking at how you want your career to go in your mind. I kind of call it an active meditation. It's something that I did a lot when I was a fighter, and I would envision fights. I would envision winning, obviously, but I would envision all of it. I would envision, getting a takedown and that person getting back up, and we have to working for another takedown. I would envision adversity. That's something I really recommend to anybody who's a fighter, is don't just envision yourself winning. I mean, focus on that, because that is the goal. But what you have to realize is that if you're only mentally preparing to win, that if you get in some trouble, you may not mentally be prepared for that. And I think all likeliness, all reality, that you're going to get in some trouble when you're in a fight is pretty likely. So envision, you can do a lot of mental training with that. And then there's obviously YouTube. You can learn lots of techniques. You can put them away in your mind, even if you're not able to practice them, take notes. What you want to do when you're able to get back in the gym. And then there's still a lot that you can do to stay in shape inside four walls. There's people who are in jail and prison who stay in excellent shape. You know what I mean? So you being quarantined for a couple weeks should not be an excuse to not be in shape. There's wonderful things like burpees and push-ups and set-ups and all different kinds of body weight exercises that you can do to stay in shape. So take the time to better yourself. I mean, you can look at this as a negative, that it sucks, and you could cry about it and you can be upset, or you can look at it as as a gift. You have a lot of time to yourself right now to better yourself in ways that you normally wouldn't. And you may just be able to benefit from that and be surprised how much you can benefit from it. So those are my tips and points of advice for any fighters or athletes at home that are feeling a little sorry for themselves. Still a lot of work that can be done.
Miesha, let's talk a little bit about the Apprentice, or the one championship version, where one young lucky, or I don't know, I guess I shouldn't say young, one lucky male or female will compete in this project for the opportunity to be a mentor to CEO of One Championship, Chatri Sityodtong. Can you talk a little bit about that? Your role and what you've seen so far?
Yeah, so he's looking at taking a number of people from around the world, some that are athletes looking to be entrepreneurs, and some that are just in more in the business field, and everybody's going to kind of have an opportunity to be the one, essentially the one apprentice of Chatri Sityodtong, which I think would be, I can tell you, having worked for him, he's an incredible boss. He's I don't even call him a boss, though. I call him a leader, because I think that there's a difference between a boss and a leader. And he is absolutely a leader. He's not somebody who believes in micromanaging which I've come to learn in the business world is huge. A lot of people tend to micromanage, but that's when they don't have faith in the people that are around them. You know, they feel like they have to control every little aspect. And Chachu's not like that. You know, he's like, look, I hired you because I believe in you. Now go do it. And before we were ever on this quarantine, we had an open door policy. We don't clock in, we don't clock out. We go into the office when we see fit and we go home when we see fit. And, you know, I mean, your work will speak for itself. If you're able to do your work, you know, at the top of the Marina Bay Sands, you know, and enjoy the view and a fresh breeze and a fresh tea, he doesn't care. You know, he's not gonna be the kind of person who is hovering over you constantly. So he's there to provide guidance and help you if you need it. So I feel like the teamwork aspect is very strong. And, you know, we are a company that's based on values, which I think is, I would say, is uncommon in this day and age. So basically, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. If you get the chance to work under Chachu Setanyang directly with his influence and everything that he's been able to do, his entrepreneurial success, his Wall Street experience, his venture capitalism experience. I mean, the man has pretty much done it all in the business world. So if you want to learn from someone who I believe, if he's not already considered legendary, I mean, will absolutely be legendary. He's the one, man. He's a good person. At the end of the day, he's a good person. I think that stands for a lot.
I'm sure you're in these board meetings or maybe conference calls. What is the future of One Championship in regards to the way things are playing out right now? Is the immediate future just continue to do shows with no audience, or have you guys set some sort of a date, a target date that the experts tell you things can get back to normal?
You know, we don't have a date yet because things are changing so fast. I mean, it's just as of tonight that gyms will be closing. I think it was just last week that no tourists are allowed in Singapore, and nobody's really allowed to go out of Singapore and come back at this point. So the hard part about this is that, I mean, it's like walking a tightrope. You just don't really know how it's going to change, and so we're not trying to make any big solid concrete plans at the moment. I mean, we are trying to, but it's difficult, right? So we want to find a way to provide live content, but we also understand that is small picture in the grand scheme of things. So we don't want to put people in danger. We want to follow the guidelines. One Championship has been so far ahead of the protocol, you know, implementing it immediately, you know, not waiting for the government to even say, you know, hey, this is a good idea or bad idea. We kind of just like, man, we should have a lot of people. The government says this, you know, and so look, we're trying to figure it out, but I think it's going to be a work in progress. Right now, we pretty much only have access to athletes that are in Singapore, and there are some athletes that we are looking into. We do have, like I said, a full team of Evolve athletes, but you know, it would be a big ask because they're not allowed to train at the gym right now. But nobody is, so it would be an equal playing field for everybody. We'll see. You know, we're trying to figure something out. We're definitely brainstorming, but it kind of seems like every time we come up with an idea, rules and regulations are changing according to the safety protocols for COVID-19, and it's just making it harder and harder to get these ideas to launch off the ground. So I think as information continues to unfold, we will be able to have a better prospect of exactly what we're going to do in the future. So I guess short story is we don't exactly have an answer for that right now, but we are working hard every day and trying to problem solve and come up with solutions to provide entertainment, because we understand, man, there's no sports going on in the world right now. It's crazy and it sucks and it's really boring to have to just watch replays all the time. So we want to give you guys some good live action, and I'm confident we will be able to do it, because if there's a will, there's a way, and we've got the will. So we're just working on it, but no concrete date set or anything as of right now.
Let's have a little fun here as we wrap up. Miesha Tate, of course, is our guest, current vice president at One Championship, former bantamweight champion at Strikeforce and the UFC. Earlier this month was the 4-year anniversary of your huge win over Holly Holm where you became world. I think they even had, this whole March Madness deal. I don't know if you caught that. For best comebacks, you were in one of those brackets. And actually today is the exact 1 decade ago when you fought Zoila Frosto at Strikeforce Challengers as well. So I'm sure this month is, pretty special, 1 year anniversary with one championship. And guess what else we got here? The release of the Miesha Tate bobblehead too. It recently happened.
There I am. Isn't that so cool? Did you know that he actually counts the number of braids you actually had on your head, and it replicates it to that detail? And if you'll notice, I think it's I've flipped around on this camera here, but there's a vein on my left arm in that one, I think. You see that little vein there?
I don't have my glasses, but I think so, yeah.
Shoulder. Yeah, like the detail is so cool. Hand painted, handcrafted, hand created. Man, that's one of the coolest things I think I've ever had done. I have a piece on me.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Did you see everything that was going on with your anniversary date of the Holly Holm win? And is that one of those dates that you'll remember, much like Amaya's birthday, your future baby's birthday? I'm sure your wedding day one day. You have to get a warm, fuzzy feeling on March 5th of every year, right?
I do. And so I'll be perfectly honest with you, George. I am not a really good person at remembering dates. I think the probability of me forgetting my own birthday if somebody didn't remind me is probably pretty high. And that also goes for that date. It's not the memory that I forget. It's just I get going and I'm busy, and the days that used to mean, something, it's you just forget that day. So thank you to the fans, because they never let me forget. They always remind me how special that day was. And it is a very special day. I'm just horrible at remembering dates and birthdays. My friends who are close friends of mine know this, because I very rarely wish anyone a happy birthday on time. So it's just me, just the way that I am. But no, the memories will always be recounted as one of the best memories of my life.
Hey, lastly, what floor are you on, by the way? Are you like 80 floors up or something like that, or 30? Or?
No, I'm on 21st floor, so it's got a pretty good view. We've got a view of the water and the Marina Bay Sands.
Very peaceful over there. It seems very peaceful over there where you're at right now.
Oh, especially right now, because there's literally zero tourists here. Like everyone who's here lives here. Either they're Singaporean or expats. I think it's about 40% of the population here are expats. But yeah, I mean, I see one person down on the water, two people down on the waterway running early morning run here. It's about coming up on 8 a.m. So it's pretty quiet. But regardless, it's a generally peaceful city. We have on this little island, we have about 5.6 million people, but it's small, and it feels small. It feels cozy.
Right on. All right. Well, hey, it's great catching up with you. Great to see you. And of course, you and everyone down at One Championship, your family, be safe out there. This thing's
Thank you.
Like we talked about earlier, it's flipped the world upside down. It's for real. It's scary, but we got to be strong and persevere. And I know we're all going to persevere. So thank you very much for the time. Good luck with all the projects you have on. Congrats on the 1 year anniversary with One Championship.
Thank you.
And we definitely look forward to everything that's going to unfold this year for you guys with the Apprentice and all the events and everything else. So hopefully we can catch up maybe sometime in the summer.
All right. Take care, you guys. And hi, Ghost. I didn't really even get to say much to you.
We miss you.
I think George took up most of the conversation. I was kidding. Hey, but it's good to see you guys. Please stay well. Sending all my love to Las Vegas and everybody there. Man, stay strong, you guys. Everybody around the world, please take this seriously, and let's kick this virus's ass.
Right on. All right. See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.